May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC, Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, preserving the legacy of Shunryu, Suzuki, and those whose paths crossed his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today we've got a guest, Tracy McCallum, and he's going to tell us about his Zen path, which started at Sokoji in San Francisco at Shunryu Suzuki in 1965, and has taken him on a roundabout course in New York City, California, Canada, New Mexico, and the Northwest. So anyway, you'll hear it. So after our pause to meditate, we'll give Tracy a call. So when you hear the bell, click pause and meditate or whatever for as long as you want. When you're ready to come back, hit unpause. And we'll be here to hit the bell to end the meditation, and we'll give Tracy McCallum a call.
Hello.
Hello, Tracy.
Hey, David.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Okay. So, where are you again?
I'm in Port Angeles, Washington.
Yeah, Port Angeles. That's sort of near Port Townsend, right?
Yeah, it's near Port Townsend. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I've been through Port Angeles, but I was going to Port Townsend. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It's nearby. It's about a little less than an hour away from here.
Right. A lot of old friends, a lot of old zennies.
Simon lives over there. Silas.
Simon who? Right? Oh, Silas. Oh, you know Silas.
Yeah, I know Silas. I met Silas in 1965.
Oh, really? Where?
At the old Zen Center.
Is that right?
Well, that's right. Yeah. Wow. The first time I went there, I went there with Tim and
Tim Buckley.
I sat next to Silas. So I didn't know who he was at the time, but that's who he was. I found out later. Found out what his name was.
Yeah. Wow. So. Well, is that the first time you went to Zen Center? Or?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And you, go on.
No, that's all right. I don't know what I was going to say.
Yeah, you were visiting Tim.
No, Tim was staying with me. He was visiting me, and he and I have been buddies for quite a few years. And when he was 18 and I was 21, we met, and we were seekers together,
Mm-hmm.
And we were interested in, especially Asian things seemed to be, or as we called it in those days, Oriental.
Yeah.
Religion seemed to be most interesting. And we knew about Zen and stuff, but, we didn't know where to go, where to find it. And I moved to San Francisco in 1965, the beginning of 1965.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to him a few months later, and he said, I want to come out there too. So he came out, and he was staying with me and my girlfriend at the time, whose name was Jay Hatch. And he came back one day, and he said, I found something. And I said, what? He said, well, there's a Zen center up here just a few blocks away. And there's a Japanese Roshi that's running it. And so I said, wow. And so I went up there and started sitting too. But then my life just went through a lot of changes, and I didn't really, I sat there for about 6 months, I guess. Less than that, probably 4 or 5 months. And but Tim really stuck with it. And as you know, the rest of the story's out there. But that was my first contact, and I just went up there and what's his name? Suzuki's assistant at the time. I can't remember his name.
Katagiri, Dining Katagiri.
Yeah, Katagiri. Yeah, Katagiri. Took me out in the hallway there and showed me how to sit and what to do, how to bow, and so then I just went in and started sitting. The first time I sat there and I was sitting next to Silas, Suzuki Roshi came in and walked behind everybody as he came in, and he walked behind me, and he stopped, and I said, oh my God, I must be doing it wrong. And, and so I just kind of dug in, and tried to sit harder. And he poked me in the back, and he said, greeting.
Oh, he was going around for the morning greeting where people bow.
Yes,
I know,
exactly.
He didn't. He'd do that. He'd say greeting, and people who knew, they wouldn't know what to do. He wouldn't say bow. I
had no idea what to do, So and then he I just kind of settled into my seat even harder to, try to feel like I was doing my best to do Zazen. And he chuckled and he just walked on.
Oh, I know that is so. You're not the only person that's told me that.
Really?
But you found out what he meant eventually.
Oh yeah, sure, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Because he'd start. I guess he'd come in to the room. People were sitting, and he'd go offer incense at the altar and do bows, and there'd be a bell, and then he'd walk around in gasho, and as he walked around, people would raise their hands in gasho.
Yeah, in gasho. Yes, exactly.
And
that's a standard thing, as I found out everywhere in Zen. So. Yeah.
And if he came to a new person, didn't know what to do, I've heard that several times. He'd stop and he'd go, greeting. And they'd freeze, wondering, what am I supposed to do? And then one thing he did that was unusual was when everybody left after service, he stood by the door to his office, and people exited through his office, each person bowing to him.
Right.
You remember?
Right.
You remember that?
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah. And he'd smile. And, yeah.
What month did you come?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, do you remember if it was January or December?
No, I don't know. I can't. I couldn't.
Oh, really?
Well, let me think. I'll think about it a little bit. It was late winter. I know that.
Oh, late
So
winter. All right. So it was February, March.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
probably
Oh, that's
March.
interesting.
March.
I came in the
Yeah.
fall of 66. Um,
Uh huh.
um, and, Tim and I lived together there. I don't know if you knew
Right.
that.
Yeah, I did.
Um, and so what do you remember about Sokoji in 65? What else?
I remember going there to work on Saturday mornings. To
Uh-huh.
clean the dojo the and they'd serve rice with a raw egg in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. That's right.
and that was interesting. I'd never eaten a raw egg before.
And they'd put the egg in. You had to break the egg, right?
Yeah. Uh huh.
And there were
Yeah.
people who didn't know it was a raw egg who would be new people. And there were
Yeah.
people who opened a raw egg all over themselves.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It was lot of. I look back now, it's all pretty funny, but it was so serious at the time. I was so serious and
Uh-huh.
trying
Uh-huh.
so hard to be a good person.
Mm-hmm. You,
It's funny.
do you remember anything about Suzuki?
Uh, I remember how difficult he was to understand what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that was the thing. He would give these talks, and they would be fairly complex talks, but it was. It's funny reading all of the daily tidbit that you put out every day.
Uh-huh.
It's just like those lectures, some of them are just like those talks he used to give, and like what the hell is this about? And,
No kidding. No kidding. Yeah, I don't spare the daily lecture excerpt Sunday. Um, on Q.com's What's New. It's the What's New blog. I don't spare the reader. I'll put
no, that's
things,
good.
so I'm showing what I mean, it's been going on for years, right? So you
Yeah,
get a sense of what he was saying. And a lot of times, I mean, you'll come through and there'll be something very clear and you'll go, wow, that's cool. But sometimes it'd be, what? What is that?
yeah,
He'd be straining to say something. He'd trying to figure out a way to say something, and he didn't review it with a native speaker
right,
beforehand.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well, sometimes
uh,
it turned out to be real gems, like things as it is, that
yeah,
those things. I mean, they were just beautiful expressions, but sometimes it just was totally bewildering.
mm, 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 yeah. So a year and a half later, I came, and
But yeah,
where were
hmm
you?
well, I left. See, I didn't stick around. My life was in flux, and I was changing partners, and finally met somebody and got married, and left San Francisco after less than 2 years. And so I didn't stay around. And I didn't even really have anything to do with Zen again for several years, but I always remembered it. I always remembered Suzuki Roshi and, just his manner and everything. And Sokoji, I remembered Sokoji. And I never went to the other place downtown, further down the road,
The city center at Page Street.
City Center. I never went to City Center.
Uh huh.
So
That was November '69. They moved into the city center.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Um, well, where'd you go?
Well, I went to Canada for a while. I had bought a piece of property up there, and I wanted to go up there and build a cabin on it and live there. And I got married. My wife and I went up there, and we started working on this. And then we realized we didn't know what the hell we were doing, and we ended up going down to. She ended up getting pregnant. She was pregnant, and we went down to Minnesota, so that my son would be born in the United States.
Right. Good idea.
And then we we went on from there. But that was a great time. So.
Where did you and Tim come from? Did you? Was
Well,
that
I was
Boston
living in New York, and he was in Cambridge. So,
right. Well, how'd you know him?
We met through a mutual friend. There was a kind of a circuit going on amongst kind of psychedelically oriented people between Cambridge and New York. And I was involved in that circuit of people.
That's pretty early. Pretty early for psychedelics.
Well, it was when they had that program, that Albert and Leary program at
Harvard.
Harvard, And Tim was an undergraduate still. That was a graduate program, and he was still an undergraduate. But he, the stuff was available everywhere, and there was a number of people that were in that program that I knew that I saw off and on for many years after that. And one of them was Bob Thurman. Do you know Bob Thurman?
Oh yeah, my gosh, that is something. You knew Bob Thurman back then. My gosh.
Yeah. He was a madman. He was a wild man.
Yeah.
That time, right after he came back from Afghanistan, he was wearing one of those Afghani jackets with all the fur coming out of the sleeves and everything, wearing an eye patch and long blonde hair. He was quite the wild man.
Yeah, an eye patch. Oh, right. Right. Oh.
And a guy named Foster Dunlap. Did you ever meet Foster Dunlap?
No.
He became he was another one of those people that was in that program, Albert and Leary program, and he lived in New York for a while, and we got to be pretty friendly. He was studying Tibetan. He was hanging out at a Tibetan community in New Jersey, and he took up with some of those teachers, and ended up in Tibet and came back, and I don't know. Then I lost track of him, but there was quite a number of people.
That Tibetan community in New Jersey, that is one of the very, very first. It was sort of monastic, wasn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was sort of like maybe the first Buddhist monastery, or almost like a monastery in the Western world. I know that because Tassajara is very close to the first Buddhist monastery in the Western world. But I know there was that group of Tibetans there. I'd say Tassajara is the first one that was really available to people to participate in. But you say he was involved with them there, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and he was studying Tibetan and translating texts, Tibetan texts.
And was he friends with Bob Thurman?
Yeah, they were buddies, yeah.
And because Bob went on to become the first Westerner that the Dalai Lama ordained, I believe.
Maybe so, yeah.
And became like a translator for him and other people, and really the best known authority on Buddhism in America, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I guess he's still the director of that big Tibetan center in New York.
Yeah,
so
I get
doing that
emails.
For 30 years at least.
Yeah, him and his wife, I think it's Neva.
Something like that. Yeah.
I've been there. I've been to that center in New York to visit. And yeah, they're very active. I get stuff from him, not personal. Every once in a while, something personal between us. But I get stuff from him, God, I don't know, at least once a week, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
They're very active.
Yeah.
And he's been involved not only in Buddhism, but in, Save Tibet, Tibetan, more like social, political, cultural stuff. He would when Clinton first ran, Bob got so into him, he was being very public, saying that Clinton is the Buddhist candidate, and I thought, well, Bob, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't jinx it for Clinton. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very political.
Yeah.
He's unafraid. He's quite a spokesperson, huh? What a way with words.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So you were around that crowd, and are you from New York City or?
No. I had moved there in 1961, and when I was 21, and I was going to school at CCNY, and which later is now City University of New York.
Where are you from?
I grew up in Michigan, and Michigan and upstate New York, Schenectady area, Tri-City area. But yeah.
And so you went out to San Francisco in '65. That had to do with your interest in Oriental things.
Yeah, that's part of why I went. I just my girlfriend and I were sick of living in New York. There was a lot of crime going around and stuff. It was not a good time in New York. It had been, but things started going kind of sour in some ways, and we needed a change, and we heard that there was a lot of really interesting stuff happening out on the West Coast in San Francisco. So we decided to move there, and that was one of the first things that came. It was a big psychedelic scene, and the music scene was pretty intense, and all of that.
Yeah, well, that was the very first inklings of it, I'd say, in '65. Anything psychedelic and the music stuff starting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what did you do? What did you do all that time? I mean, I got to. Well, you and I met before we go there. You and I met, I think, in 1967 at Taos. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
So you went there to see what it was about and visit Tim, or what?
Yeah, exactly. Both of those things. And he was he had some kind of official boss position there. I can't remember what it was.
In '67, Richard Baker was, calling the shots then, and he loved these tall men from Harvard. So it was Peter Schneider and Tim Buckley and him. We had these three ectomorphs from Harvard that were serious. They were very serious about Zen, and I had been living with Tim in the city at Loring Palmer's. And Tim used to say, Loring saved my life, because Loring had a disciplined scene going on in his home. We'd all get up and go to Zazen and service and everything, and then come back, and we'd have a silent cleaning period, samu, and then a silent breakfast, and then tea. And at morning tea, we would break the silence. And it was like having a little monastic community there. And Tim had been struggling with all sorts of demons, you know.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. I've been struggling with them too. So.
Yeah? That's not apparent in you. You're always real cool. Tim
Yeah.
would talk about his dark problems and stuff. But anyway, we both. I was down, but I went to Taos like in late February, and the first time, and then came back in March and started living there. And he came later, and yeah, and he was. I don't remember what position he had right then. But I think I met you in the dining room, and you told an embarrassing story about me. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I did. Yes.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
So I
well,
can deny it.
Yeah, it was the guest dining room. You were the waiter in the guest dining room, and
Yeah, I
you
ran
were
the
really
guest
good at
dining
it.
room. Yeah.
Yeah, you were really good. You talked to people and laughed, and carried on with them. But I remember when I was eating, we were eating in there, and I saw you. You were. There was this one woman there with a real voluptuous set of tits, and she had a very low cut top on, and you were doing your best to get as good of a look as you could down her cleavage, and you had this tray with a pot of soup on it, and the soup was spilling on the table while you were looking down this
God.
woman.
Oh, no, it was somebody else. Oh, horrors. Yeah.
It was very funny.
I've included that story in at least so far in the work in progress Tassajara stories.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
That is that next. It's I'm getting toward the end on working on that. Yes, because it's so that I can deny it and say this is clearly someone else. Horrors.
Somebody made it up, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's that old saying? The Bowery Boys. I represent that opinion or something like that. It's. I know. No, the Bowery Boys said, "I resemble that. I resemble that."
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So, and that was early. That was very early on. Wow, 67. Yeah. Did you return any to visit?
No, I didn't. I told Tim I want to come down there and visit you. My wife and I were living in Merced, California, at the time. Her family owned a place there, and they were They were out of the country. Her father was a pilot in Vietnam, and so we were staying there. And I said, "Well, we want to come down and visit you and visit there." And see, just see the place and everything. And he said, "Sure, come on down." He said, "By the way, will you pick up a couple of bags of brown rice at the Coda Brothers?"
Oh my God, that's way out of the way. Oh, Merced.
And
is Merced over by Highway 5?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've picked up stuff at Coda Brothers a number of times. I'd take a big truck though and get tons.
Sure. Yeah.
So you dropped by Coda Brothers. They were famous for their organic brown rice.
Yeah.
In let's see, where were they? They were in a little place. Oh God. Do you remember where they were?
No, I don't even remember. I just remember the name and that we picked it up.
You had to go across, coming from Coda Brothers over to Highway 101, you had to go across an extremely windy, almost always windy road where they had big signs warning that it'll make trucks blow over and stuff. I remember that. So what were you doing? What sort of, how were you earning a living?
Well, I was just working odd jobs. I was trying to go to school. I was trying to finish up school. I was working off and on a degree, and sometimes it was a degree in art, fine art. Sometimes it was English literature, and I just never could make up my mind what I wanted to do, you know. And I got a couple of years in New York, and then when I went to San Francisco, I went to the San Francisco Art Institute for a year. And
oh, is that right?
Yeah. And
wow.
My girlfriend had a monthly check from her family, and so we lived on that for several years. And then, but after we broke up, then I worked at odd jobs here and there, you know, to make money and stuff. And in Merced, I was working in a night manager of a hotel, the only hotel in Merced, California. That was interesting.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Anyway, I tried to sit here and there, but I couldn't. I didn't have anybody else to sit with, and I just couldn't do very much. And the next time I did any sitting was years later when I ended up in New Mexico. So.
Yeah, that's where you and I reconnected.
Yeah, in Taos. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what happened between Merced and Taos?
Let's see. Well, my son was born in 1969, and then we my wife and I broke up, and we ended up going to Toronto, back to Canada. And
now is this a new mate?
Yeah, yes. And we tried to well, somewhere in there, I worked for Stuart Brand. And
wait a minute, you're in Toronto working for Stuart Brand?
Before I went to Toronto, I was working for Stuart Brand in Menlo Park. And
is that right?
Yeah, in the Whole Earth Truck Store in Menlo Park, and Palo Alto, actually.
And in what year? Let
me see if I can remember. 68, 69, somewhere in there.
Is that right? I met him at Tassajara in 67.
Oh.
And he told me, I think he came in with some Indians once then. Does that?
Yeah. His wife was an Indian woman.
Oh, is that right? Wow. And I remember sitting with him in the dining room. It's just him and me, for some reason. And he told me this idea he had about this book with tools but not just tools, like books like tools and all the stuff that's available. And I thought, that's a neat idea. I was hearing all sorts of neat ideas. There were a lot of new ideas going around then, as you remember.
Yeah.
And I thought that was neat. And then the next thing I know, bam, there's the Whole Earth catalog. And I go, and then, I'd see him now and then through the years. Wow, and so you were working for him. I forgot there was the Whole Earth Drug Store in Menlo Park.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is neat. That's a bit of history
there.
Yeah,
it is. And so anyway, I got an idea about, I wanted to figure out a way to live. I really wanted to live in Canada for some reason. I had it in my head that was where I wanted to be. And
anything to do with the war?
Well, yeah, partly to do with the war. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to go, and so uh, so I ended up in anyway, I was trying to figure out something to do up there, and I thought, well, maybe I could do like a Canadian offshoot of the Whole Earth catalog, and so I went up.
Wow.
That's what I decided to do, and we called it the Canadian Whole Earth Almanac, and we published, I think, 4 issues of it.
Oh my goodness, that's very ambitious.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I found a guy that had some money and was willing to invest in it, and so we did that. We started that, and I was the editor of it, and had some other guys working with me, and it was pretty cool. It was a big deal in Canada. So
is that available?
Oh, it's long gone,
Yeah, but is there? Do you have a copy
I have a few copies.
of any
I
of
have
them?
copies of them. Yeah.
Oh, I want to put that in the archive. That's very cool. If you're interested, yeah, that's really neat. Yeah, there were some things that happened back then. I want to put. I don't know if you ever met John Steiner.
Yeah.
But he did a thing called Evolutionary Blues, a magazine. I don't know, maybe it was early 70s. That was really ahead of its time. And, so much of this stuff just forgotten. And I've got the Evolutionary Blues, but, it's back in my stuff. It's one thing I didn't get scanned and put online.
That's too bad.
Yeah, but, when I think about going back to America, I don't think about, there are some people, of course, that want to visit, but I don't want to leave here. We have a very simple life here in Bali, and America's very complicated and big. I don't want to drive, but I think, man, I could just go through those archives one more time, and there's stuff I could get out of it. And there's stuff in my personal archive, especially music tapes.
Right.
I've thought about, because I'm doing a lot of music now. Well, anyway. All right, so you did the Canadian Whole Earth Almanac. Well, good Lord.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So what happened then?
Well, I started with these 2 other guys, and we just ended up not being able to work together. And, and everybody's stoned, and, it just wasn't working out for the 3 of us to work together. So I just decided to leave. So I had I had a new girlfriend by then, and I said, "What do you want to do?" And she said, "I want to go to the Llama Foundation." So
there you go.
So I got this old school bus and fixed it up for us to live in, and we drove down to Florida to visit my dad, who was living in Key West. And then we went through Alabama and over to the Texas and up the Rio Grande to Santa Fe. And I said, well, this is starting to look pretty good. And I liked it. And by the time we got up to Taos, some people approached me in the bus and said, "Hey, man, we got a commune out here. Why don't you come and stay at our commune?" And so I did. It was called Morning Star Commune, and then there was another one called New Buffalo. So I went and parked my bus in.
Where was that?
That was in a place called Arroyo Hondo, near Taos.
Oh, Arroyo Hondo, yeah.
That's where New Buffalo was.
Arroyo Hondo. Where's it located? Like you're driving to Taos from Santa Fe?
You go north. You keep going north from Taos.
Do you go up toward that? What's that called? Oh, Caliente or something?
No, that's off in a different direction. That's southwest of there. Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. That's southwest
right?
of Taos.
I've been to all those places, but I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, well, we were all still pretty stoned, so always. So.
So Did you have anything to do with Lama?
Yeah, so she said she wanted to go to Lama. So this was midwinter, so we drove up to Lama one day and
God.
talked to the people there, and they said, well, if you guys want to come and stay here, you can stay here. We hardly have anybody here right now. And so we did. We moved up to Lama, and I stayed there for another year and a half. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was.
And did you meet Steve Gierke?
Yeah, I met Steve. Wasn't there a lot of the time. He was off doing his Sufi practice with Pir Vilayat Khan, and but his wife Barbara was there with her kids. She just passed away recently. Did you know that?
I didn't know her.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't know her.
Yeah. She.
You knew Jonathan Altman.
Oh yeah, I knew Jonathan really well. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And as a matter of fact, he stopped living at Lama and bought a piece of property in Arroyo Seco, which is not far away. And and I helped him build his house.
Oh, nice house, man! I've stayed there.
Yeah.
Kobun used to live there.
Yeah, he did. And so Jonathan sold me a piece of land because he had bought 15 acres, and he sold me 3 acres of land really cheap. And I built a house on it. And
I stayed there.
Yeah. So, and then I lived there for a long time. So, and got married again. And then Colvin came
to Fran Keller, an old Suzuki student, and that's how you and I reconnected.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How did you meet Fran?
Through Maggie Kress.
Oh.
So Maggie had moved up there to Taos, and I started going out with her. And then,
oh my gosh!
And then Fran and their art teacher Elizabeth Campbell moved out there too.
Yes.
And so then I met Fran. We really hit it off, and so we ended up getting married and building this house together. You know, we did a good deal, good stuff. We were together for 17 years. And
yeah.
So we did not consider our marriage a failure by any means.
No, good.
You know,
good.
And,
yeah.
It was a great success, actually. We both came out of it really well and got a lot of good things happened and stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, I really liked connecting with you there. I mean, Fran and Maggie couldn't be more different.
That's right.
I was just telling Katrinka last night that you were with Fran, telling her about Fran. And Fran, I said, was a very solid, stable, mature, impressive woman.
Oh, yeah.
And Maggie, who I would stay with, well, Maggie was my best friend in Taos and later Santa Fe. I stayed with her a lot. Maggie was chaos.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, she was great. God. And wow. So now, as I recall, you were the librarian of the Taos Library.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Did that happen? Were you librarian back then? Oh, and I can't remember what year I stayed with you. 70s.
Yeah, I was. I started working there at the library in about 75. About 1975, and I eventually became the library director, and built a new library building. Got a new library building built, and that was really a lot of fun.
Wow. Yeah. Did you know Bob Watkins very well? I mean, he lived
I knew
right up there in Arroyo Seco.
Yeah, I knew Bob really well. Yeah. And I used to go up there and sometimes with Bob, and once in a while when Coben would come out, I would sit with him. But Bob, often I sat regularly with him. And then, yeah.
Yeah. I would always visit Bob, too, when I was in there. There were so many people to visit.
Yeah.
In Taos and Santa Fe.
Yeah.
And Boulder, because of Trump going there. That whenever I went to Texas, I would go through there, like at least one of the ways. And I drove and even flew out there. Yeah. And then I remember going through much later years and seeing you when you were the director of the Kit Carson Museum in Santa Fe. That was impressive. So, you went from Taos and you're in Santa Fe, and did you know Stan White there?
Yeah, I knew Stan. Yeah, in Taos. Yeah, when he was in Taos, I did. Yeah.
And later he was in Santa Fe.
Well, I never lived in Santa Fe, so I don't know. I did practice down there eventually. After Fran and I parted ways at a certain point, I think we had just parted ways when I met up with you, and when I was at the Kit Carson Home and Museum. Yeah. And it was soon after that I got involved with a teacher that was visiting in Santa Fe named Pat Hawk, who you probably never heard of.
Oh yeah. No, I heard Pat Hawk speak there. He was from Abilene. He was a Catholic priest, right?
Yeah, not from Abilene, Amarillo.
Amarillo. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
And but he was coming to a place called Mountain Cloud Zen Center in Santa Fe to hold sessions.
Yeah.
And so I started going down there to see him, and I just became totally devoted to him. And that was 1994. And I stayed with him until he passed away in 2012.
So, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful.
It was
wonderful.
fantastic.
I really liked him.
Yeah.
But my prior wife, Elin, and I lived in Santa Fe from July 92 to July 93, and coming back from Japan. I moved there intentionally just to be there a year. And I went and heard Pat Hawk speak.
Oh, wow.
I liked him.
Yeah.
Probably ran into you there. Who knows?
Maybe so. He was fantastic. He was just amazing.
He had studied in Kamakura. Is that true?
Yeah, he had. And
with Yasutani or
Yasutani and what's his name? Yamada.
Yamada. Yeah.
And
Yamada Koun.
Koen Yamada.
Koen Yamada.
Yeah. And
they say
and he and then he studied with Aiken Roshi, Robert Aiken.
Yeah.
Also. So.
Oh, he studied with Robert Aiken?
Yeah, Aiken actually is the one that gave him transmission.
Oh, very interesting.
So. He had a parting of the ways with the Kamakura guys. So they. And it's interesting.
Go on. Tell me what you know about that.
Well, it's a complicated story, and I'll tell you what. There's a friend of mine who was also a student of Pat Hawk's. has written a biography of Pat Hawk. And it includes
really?
tons of stuff about the Diamond Sangha and about the Kamakura crowd and everything.
Wow.
And
What's it called?
Well, it's not published yet. She's going to try and it's going to be published this year sometime. And it's just, I did a critical reading of it in December, the last critical reading. And that kind of wrapped up editorials, And so it was in editing. I did an edit. And her husband's working on the index right now. And as soon as he's finished with that, they're going to self-publish it. So,
wait a minute. Tell her to get a hold of me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will.
I mean, if they're going to self-publish it, it sounds like they've tried and failed with various publishers.
Well, I think they've talked to a couple of publishers, and none of the ones that they talked to were very enthusiastic. I think that's how I would categorize it.
Just tell them to get hold of me, and probably I can't help, but I can try, and we'll see.
Okay, I'll talk to her. She lives here in Port Angeles now. She's been living in Tucson for a long time, but her name's Helen Amarangan. And
wow, good name.
Yeah, and anyway, was a fellow student of Pat's, and so she had talked to Pat about writing something about him, and he told her finally okay. He resisted it for a while, but then he finally said okay, and so she's been working on this for 9 years now.
Oh goodness!
And it's finally done, and it's a fantastic book because it includes all kinds of stuff about Aitken and Kamakura, and the whole Diamond Sangha. You know about the Diamond Sangha, Aitken's outfit,
oh yeah,
right?
Listen, I certainly do. I mean, I knew Aiken, not well, but he would visit the Zen Center.
Yeah.
And he was very close with some people there. And I've been in meetings with him, and
well, he was one of the founders of the Buddhist Fellowship, So, yeah.
And the you know who John Tarrant is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think he was Aiken's first Dharma heir or something, right? And,
and
John and I are very close. In fact, I'm doing their Zen Luminary series Monday in 2 days, 6 p.m. California time, pacificzen.org.
PCI.
I'm the PCI. I'm the guest, and John Joseph is running that series. I lived with John Tarrant like 8 or 9 years in his barn. Yeah, the PCI is the fiscal sponsor of Cuke Archives.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Zen
that.
Center. Yeah.
Small world, huh?
Oh, yeah. John has been an enormous help to me, and I really enjoyed living with him. It's always kind and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him once at Mountain Cloud. I guess you know about the whole thing about his breakup with Aitken, right?
He and I wouldn't talk about that stuff. But I know it happened. And I know certain things why, and and they're very different. John's Australian.
Yeah.
He's Tasmanian. And he's a little more of a libertine than Aiken was.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And yeah, but PCI, good Lord, they're going strong.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, yeah. That's really interesting. Well, that was wonderful. You were with Pat Hawk all those years.
Yeah.
So impressive. How did you end up leaving Taos? Oh, wait a minute. Something I want to ask before I forget it. I think when I first met you, you were thinking of doing a book on Quanah Parker, the
That's right.
Texas Comanche.
Yeah, that's right.
My grandmother was Luvina Parker, and she said that we were related to Quanah Parker.
Oh, wow.
And she was pretty racist with black people, but she really liked the Parker name and the tie-in there. She was, when I say pretty racist, not outspokenly so, but, just old-fashioned white
I know what
Texan
you mean.
from a small town. Nothing malicious, just, it's, real prejudice.
Yeah, I know how it is. My parents were that way, So.
Mine weren't. Mine were wonderful.
Well, my father wasn't, but
so
my mother and my stepfather were. So. Yeah.
Oh, really? Really? Yeah. Yeah, we could not speak ill of anyone in our home. Everyone had to be treated fairly. People aren't stupid, they're ignorant, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, well, tell me about Quanah Parker.
Oh, well, I just, I went to peyote meetings when I lived in Taos for many years. I was part of the peyote religion down there. And
I forgot that.
Probably for...
And Fran was too.
Yeah, she went to meetings with me and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
So that was cool. So then that's how I got interested in Quanah Parker. And being a librarian and a kind of a scholar and, English major and all of this shit, I naturally thought, well, there's a book in here, and so I started doing the research and found out that there had been several books published and already, but that it covered all the ground pretty much. But I did a lot of research, and it was pretty interesting. I never did get around to trying to publish anything. I never even got around to really writing anything. I took notes and read everything and, studied everything, but never really followed through with it. So, yeah.
Well, let me tell you an image I have of Quanah Parker. You tell me where I'm off. I think, was he part white?
Yes, his mother was white.
His mother was a woman who had been captured he was Comanche, right?
That's right. His father was a Comanche chief, and his mother was a captive, white captive.
As I recall, she was liberated, and as soon as she could, she went back.
Well, she was so-called liberated, from a man that she loved very, very much. She got to love her husband, Indian husband, and when she was, I guess you'd say, recaptured by the white people, she died of a broken heart, essentially.
Oh, she didn't go back.
No, she wanted to, but she couldn't. They wouldn't let her. So. And she died of a broken heart. Yeah. There's even a book about that. So.
And so Quanah Parker became a leader, right? A chief.
Yeah, he did. He was a leader of the peyote religion. And
is that right? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. He's really put it on the map for the Indians, and So.
Oh.
And I
Wow.
went to visit some years back. I went to visit his. He built a big house. Had a big house built for him called the Star House.
Yeah.
It had stars on the roof.
Where?
In Oklahoma, near Fort Sill. And I went to visit it, and I visited. It was still there, still being taken care of, and it's kind of falling apart. But it was interesting because there was a guy that was the caretaker of it there, and he didn't know anything about it and about Quanah Parker and everything. And I was outside of the Star House, and I looked down on the ground, and there was the remains of the kind of fire that they built in a peyote teepee. And I looked, and there was a peyote circle there on the ground. And I realized that somebody had been holding meetings there. And I said, "What's with this?" to the guy. And he said, his relatives still come out here once in a while and do some kind of ceremony here. He didn't know anything about it. But I knew that they were doing peyote meetings there. So.
Oh, wow. Now, wasn't Quanah Parker involved in fighting earlier?
No. Well, when he was young. Yeah, but he didn't want that. He wanted peace. And he wanted to help his people succeed. And so that's what he was into.
Yeah. Now, the Comanches, my understanding is that the Apaches feared them, that they were the most...
well, they're the fiercest tribe in the Southwest. Yeah.
Fierce. Yeah. And their territory extended, was in West Texas, not far from where I grew up, but I don't remember anything about Comanches. I guess they got run off or something.
Yeah, they got basically destroyed, put on a reservation,
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. Because, my grandmother would tell me about Quanah Parker. And she was from a little town in West Texas. That my father never took. Well, maybe we drove through once, but my father, I think he considered that he'd come from Hicksville, and he, did not want to. I think he considered that he came from the bedrock of ignorance, and well, that's really something. All right. So you studied with Pat Hawk until 2012, and he died. At what age? How old was he when he died?
Oh gosh, early 70s, 71, I think.
Yeah. When did you leave Taos?
Well, I had already left Taos by then. I had moved up to Port Angeles here, and I had come up here because what happened is when I was studying with Pat and I retired from the library. It was in 1997 when I retired from the library, and the first thing I told Pat, I said, "I'm thinking about going to Taos, Sahara." And as upon retirement, and I had actually written to City Center and gotten an application and filled it out, and they said yes, we would accept you, to go there for training periods. And so I was set to do that. And then I talked to Pat about it, and he said no. He said, "Why don't you go stay with Aiken?" He said, "I want you to stay in our lineage." And so what I did instead of going to Taos Sahara is I went to Honolulu and stayed at the Palolo Zen Center for 3 months for a 90-day ongo. In
Oh goodness!
in January of 1998, and I stayed there for 90 days. And Aitken was living on the Big Island. He wasn't in Honolulu anymore, which is where Palolo is. But they had a training program at Palolo, and so that's what I was doing. So, but I would go over and see Aitken and stay with him for a week or so, here and there. And so I got a lot of exposure to him. And then I did that for 3 years in a row. Every January, I would go there for 3 months for a 90-day ongo. And then the rest of the year, I would do sessions with Pat, So, and eventually, one of the women that I met over there was getting married in Port Townsend. So I came up to Port Townsend to go to her wedding. And also at that time, there was a woman that Pat Hawk had given permission to teach named Kristen Larson. Her name was Kristen Norris at that time. She was married to a guy named Bill Larson. And they lived in Port Angeles. And I knew her for many years of sitting with Pat Hawk. She was always there. And I knew that she lived in Port Angeles. And so when I went to this wedding in Port Townsend, I came over to Port Angeles and went to visit her and her husband. They have a nice little Zendo here. And so I started thinking maybe this is a nice area to live in. And I was getting sick of Taos. I was getting tired of the drought. And I don't know. I didn't really, now that I wasn't working in the library, I had no ties. I didn't have as many ties. And so I decided to move up here. And so in 2010, October of 2010, I moved up here. And I sold my house in San Cristobal and moved up here and bought another place up here. And started sitting with Kristen and Bill Larson. And then a few years later, Bill passed away. And Kristen is she's a teacher now. She was given transmission by Pat before he died. And so I sit with her and a small group of people. So I've been doing that now for 12 years. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And is there a name of the group?
Yeah, it's called No Sangha. North Olympic Sangha. But it also means, it's a pun, So,
yeah, that's good. That's good. Do you know any of the One Drop Zendo people? They're right next door to you.
No.
Shodo Harada?
No, I know. I've heard about them, but I've never been over there. I've never met them. So. Yeah,
they're on Whidbey.
Yeah. That is where my friend got married, was there at their place, and I went there for that wedding. But
oh wow!
But she got married by Nelson Foster. Do you know who Nelson Foster is?
Yeah, sure. He's
another Aiken.
Yeah, he's an Aiken. Well, he's an Aiken Dharma heir that Aiken said, there's no enlightenment at Zen Center. You don't have a real teacher. I recommend you get Nelson Foster as your teacher. That's after Richard Baker had left.
Yeah.
And Nelson lives in Nevada City and married Gary Snyder's ex-wife, Masa.
Yeah. And he runs Ring of Bones Zendo. Yeah.
Right. And which is on Gary's land there.
Yeah.
Gary Snyder just fell down and I think he might have hurt some ribs.
I heard that.
He's 90 or something now.
Yeah, I'm in touch with Nelson. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he and I became pretty good friends after I went to. He was a teacher at the Palolo Zen Center after Aiken retired. And so I got to know him there, and we got to be good friends. And I visited him in Ring of Bone, and so yeah.
Wow. You've had an interesting Zen journey.
Yeah. It was interesting to
Yeah.
me, that's for sure. But
Um, are you involved with anything in Port Angeles?
well, I'm also an artist. I don't know if you knew that. I I I paint, and I also, since I moved up here, I met some people who were into wood turning. I met a really good wood turner, a really cool guy from New Zealand, and took him on as a teacher of wood turning, making bowls. So I make wooden bowls
Oh,
on a lathe,
and uh-huh. Oh,
and,
wow.
and
Wow. And as an artist, what type of art?
painting, acrylic painting, and also I do some calligraphic ink style paintings. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't help that.
Can I see them anywhere? Are they
Uh,
online?
no, they're not online really. I could send you a couple. I could email you a
Yeah,
couple.
send me some.
Yeah.
Send me some.
And I did the
But
signs, for the Zendo here. I made the signs,
ah,
you know.
oh, neat,
Uh,
neat.
and
Huh.
I've sold a few things, but I have my bowls in a gallery here in Port Angeles,
Hmm.
and
Oh, that's
once a year
wonderful.
they give me a big art show, and I show my paintings and all the bowls I've been making during the year, and I sold several paintings this last year in the gallery. So
Ah, well, good for you. Wow.
so
Um,
I don't really care whether I
yeah,
sell anything or not. It's just a place to display them, as far as I'm concerned. So it's like having a museum display.
did you ever know in Port Townsend, Silas's best friend was Nils Holm?
Yeah,
Uh, did you know Nils?
I do. I did know Niels. Yes.
He was also one of my very, very closest friends.
Well, he was
And
married to
he
Maggie,
and
and
I,
and
yeah,
and I've actually visited them in is it Muir Beach. Is that where they lived for a while?
that's right.
Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
right. Yeah, I visited them there, and then I knew Niels, and Niels came out to New Mexico to help Jonathan Altman one summer building the house.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I really liked him. I really
Oh,
got to like him a lot.
yeah. What a great guy. Yeah, I really miss him. We used to get together like once a year or something. And mm, and he and I had extensive. I have extensive interviews with him on
Hmm.
Kick.com, and I was talking to him as he was dying. To the
Hmm.
point where he was unintelligible.
Uh, that was sad.
Uh, yeah, gee, yeah, um, yeah. I missed him more than I do most people. I'll say.
Yeah.
uh,
I remember he was so cool because he was a real worker, and he loved to work
boy, was he? Yeah,
and build things. And we were all working on this
and
house
he,
for
yeah.
Jonathan, and Jonathan was just kind of this. He overthought everything. He
Mm-hmm.
he was too thinky and not enough doing. And Niels got really frustrated. He said, "Let's just do the fucking thing." Instead of sitting around
uh,
talking about it. You know, he wanted to get out there and
uh,
start driving nails.
yeah, yeah, and he'd straighten nails. Did you ever see him straighten nails?
Yeah.
He didn't like throwing them away. He said, don't have to throw them away." He said, "You'll straighten them out." Uh, and um, you know what I remember about that home is there was this very ambitious solar attempt on the south side with these barrels, right? These like 55-gallon drums or something to,
Hmm.
or something. Right? Wasn't that don't? Isn't it something? Wasn't it something like that?
Who's home?
Jonathan's.
Uh, maybe. I don't remember that,
Yeah.
but
Oh well, maybe it was another home. I thought Jonathan. I thought it was Jonathan tried some solar thing there
he
on
probably
one
did.
side.
I don't
Well,
remember it, but he probably did.
it it might have come in later. You know.
Yeah.
Uh, Well, that's interesting. Did you know Bill Porter over in Port
I
Townsend?
do. I've met with him a number of times. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
and he
Bill's a
was
great
very
guy.
close with Nils. Yeah, he
He,
is. He is.
yeah.
Yeah, you're in a good area there. We like it a lot.
Yeah.
We like going there. Don't know if we'll ever be back. Huh. Well, gee, Tracy, I think we've covered a lot of ground here, and I'm yeah, I'm really impressed, and I learned a lot. That's so interesting, so much of it. Do you have anything? Do you have a closing comment?
Well, I'm really happy where Zen practice has taken me. It's really a lot of the time I thought, well, this isn't going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere with it. It's just not happening. But the truth is it did. You know, it
Yeah,
it took.
that's true. Yeah,
And
yeah,
it all started with Suzuki Roshi, and so yeah,
yeah. He gave a talk once where he said, and this is back in '66. I heard it where he said, once you get involved with Buddhism like this, Buddhism has eyes, and you can't get away from them.
yeah,
I've written a whole piece on that because it reminded me of the eyes of Texas. You cannot get away.
uh huh, yeah,
And so that's sort of like you're sort of an example of that. You thought you'd. Well, the same thing happened to him. He felt like his practice wasn't going anywhere in Japan, and he'd sort of given up. But then he said he discovered he hadn't given up, and
yeah,
that doors opened up. And he said it was like finding a pass in a mountain you thought was impassable.
yeah. It turns out there you are. You're on that path.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because he
I was
really
on.
blossomed when he came to America.
Yeah,
Uh, and it sounds like you've been like one of those perennial flowers that has blossomed extremely well there in
yeah.
in your life. Yeah.
Took me a long time, but
Wow.
it's been great.
Yeah.
Great
And
journey.
and you've been helpful to me. Uh, uh, with feedback on posts and stuff. I appreciate it.
Good, good.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, I do appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, great. I'm
Indeed.
glad to be of help. I got a friend who was
Yeah.
another student of Pat Hawk's who was
Uh-huh.
from Hawaii. She was from the island of Kauai. She grew up there and everything, and then she left and she lived in Tucson for many years. Pat Hawk moved to Tucson from Amarillo, and that's where he spent his last years. And
Oh. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, I had this friend who was a student of his, and she and I became real good friends. And she moved back to Kauai, and so I've been over to visit her several times since then because she's got a really nice place there, nice place to go for a little while in the wintertime every year. So
Oh.
so I went over there I was just over there. I just got back from there. And
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
and I went over and I thought, well, I'm just gonna have a nice relaxing time and just take it easy and soak up the sun and everything. And the day after I got there, she had gone to a naturopathic doctor who injected her knee with stem cells and some other stuff, and suddenly she couldn't walk. She was, and she got inflammation in the knee, and she got really bad. And I ended up spending my whole time there taking care of her. So, so I
she's
said,
lucky.
I said, well, she said, I'm so sorry that you have to do this. You can't just have fun while you're here. And I said, you know what, Karen, this is what I came for. I didn't know it at the time, but this is what I came for.
Right.
And that's how my whole life with Zen has been like that. I didn't know what I came for.
Yeah, and that's what this phone call has been for me. I thought I knew you. And yeah, very interesting, very interesting. Wow. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, and I look forward to continued connection.
And I will mention to Helen, who wrote this book about Pat Hawk, to give you a call.
Send me an email,
I guess,
first,
and you guys can do whatever you want. But if you know something, that would be really cool to help her.
Well, I could try. Maybe it's a long shot. Publishing is not easy these days. Last night at midnight, I was in a Zoom conference call with the entire staff of Shambhala for an hour, over an hour. One thing, it was for them to ask me questions, but I asked them a lot. There were like 40 people, I mean, it's a major industry. Good Lord. I asked each person, all these little squares with their heads on in the Zoom talk. Before they asked me anything, I went one by one through the people, said, hi, what do you do? What's your role there? And one person I asked, she was sort of in charge of, like scheduling and calendar and organizing and all these. I said, how many books are you all working on at a time? Like, not including mine. Like, I came out with Zen is Right Here in July. No, Zen is Right Now, the sequel to Zen is Right Here, and they brought them out together as a set. And wow. Even yesterday, we got a very favorable review from it. I'm going to put on What's New today. And I said, not like including that where there's little things happening, things where you're actually working on it. She said, well, let me see. We've got about 100 now.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I said, a lot of publishers are having a hard time right now. I think Shambhala is healthier. I wouldn't be surprised if it's healthier than any publisher, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I wouldn't either. Actually, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm in touch with them a lot. So, I can find some things out there really easy. But, I've done it before. There's no favors, I'll tell you. There are no favors in anything I do either.
Yeah.
It's business,
Yeah, I get
They're not going to put something out they don't think is going to, they think is going to lose money.
Right.
Anyway, thank you very much, Tracy. And I really appreciate it.
It's been great talking to you.
Oh, yeah. Well, indeed.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Okay, take care, Dave.
Bye-bye. So thank you very much, Tracy McCallum. Appreciate it. It's been good talking with you. And thanks a lot for your corrections, your errata. You're pointing out I forgot a bell here, or forgot to put an introduction there, or whatever, or this link doesn't work on the blog post. Anyway, appreciate it. That's good. You're a errata hero. Oh, and I would like to remind you that on Monday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to be a guest of John Joseph of Pacific Zen Institute for a Zoom talk. It's part of their Zen Illuminaries series. And all you have to do to learn about it is go to pacificzen.org, and the events that are happening are right there on the home page. So until next time, this is DC Puba of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from sleepy Sanur with Doggy Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.